Are we good to go? So, great. Good afternoon to everyone. And I'm Radhika on behalf of Team Edelweiss and Team Edelweiss Asset Management. I am delighted to welcome you to another edition of Connect. This is a very special Connect. In the past, we have done Connects on a wide range of topics, but I have to say they've been largely fund management topics so far. The endeavor now in this lockdown is to talk about things I think that are relevant to an advisor and to an advisor's real business. And that's what we want to try and do today. In the many conversations that I've had with you, that you've had with our teams, one of the most popular topics that has come up is the need to build an IFA's brand. An IFA is a very, very powerful force, but how does an IFA go about this exercise of personal branding? Personal branding is a word that has been talked about a lot in media today. So we thought we would devote today's conversation to how to build brand you, that is brand IFA. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. To do this webinar and lead us today through this, we have a guest that I am very excited about. I actually attended, the idea came when we attended, Manisha and I attended his webinar about 2 weeks ago on personal branding, and I attend a lot of these marketing webinars. I found this very interesting because I thought it was simple and practical, and there was something to take away from it. And so that's what it was. So I'm delighted to introduce to you our speaker. Intro. He was the former CEO of FCB Ulka, one of India's top advertising agencies. He's worked on many brands that we love and cherish in India. Financial services brands like LIC, but also brands like Tata, TCS, Santoor, Sundrop, many, many other brands. He's an alum of IIT Madras, has been a speaker at sort of legendary institutions like Kellogg's, and has and Noodles, which I highly recommend you read. So before I hand it over to Ambi, thank you so much for doing this for us. I also know many of you have questions on this topic. What I'm going to do is, Ambi is going to speak for about 30-35 minutes on personal branding for IFAs. There is a chat link. So if you have questions, please post them there, and I'll be asking the questions after 30 minutes. I really encourage you to post your questions. So please do post your questions and we'll take it from there. With that, it's my pleasure to kick off Connect and welcome Ambi to kick off the show.
Okay, thank you, Radhika, for inviting me to speak to this forum of your independent financial advisors. Thank you, Manisha, and for attending my IIT Madras seminar. So what I have here is a 35-40 minute kind of a talk, and then we'll have question and answer. So let me start by trying to share my screen. Okay. Okay, so thank you for inviting me, and I'm told 1,000 people registered, so I hope at the end of this 1 hour you will come out with some new learnings about what personal brand is. So in this webinar, the 3 questions I'll try and answer is: why should an IFA invest in building his or her brand? How should an IFA build his or her brand? How should a strong personal brand enable business expansion? So before I start off on my thing, one request to all of you who are attending this is, it'll be nice if you have a pen and a paper nearby so that you can note down a few things. I'm going to ask you to do some little short exercises. So let's start with where this entire branding thing started. Philip Kotler, a very famous marketing professor, said this, that branding is marketing. If you take out branding, there is nothing to marketing. And so what is a brand? I mean, there are a lot of complicated explanations of what is a brand. And I feel this explanation, which I found in a book some years ago, is a great explanation. There is a great advantage in a name that tells a story. Brand is nothing but a name that tells a story. So if I say Lux, it tells a story. If I say Nike, it tells a story. If I say Tata, it tells a story. If I say Amul, it tells a story. If I say uh, Rasesh Shah, it tells a story. If I say Kiran Mazumdar Shah, it tells a story. If I say Narayana Murthy, it tells a story. So brand is a name that tells a story. But why are brands important? Why do we all keep talking about brands? And at one stage, there was a big push saying, brands are basically being created by marketers to charge extra money, extra fee, extra cost from the buyers. But in reality, buyers like brands. Why do they like brands? Because brands reduce the risk. It definitely reduces the risk of searching, and every time finding something, it reduces the risk. A brand also promises a bond, a pact. And of course, we are sellers. We love brands because brands gives us an ability to endow unique associations. It also gives us a strong competitive advantage, and it is a source of better financial returns. So both buyers and sellers today love brand. Though around 10 years ago, there was a big story that, buyers have become so informed that they will ignore all brands. That has not happened. So there's a book called No Logo, which was a bestseller, but then later Economist came and wrote a cover story called Pro Logo saying everyone likes brands. And today, brands are everywhere. It is not just physical products like Nike and Lux. Services are brands, like airlines are brands, retailers are brands, online products. Amazon is a brand, Big Basket is a brand. Sports and entertainment are brands. Geographic locations, Kerala, God's own country is a brand. Ideas and causes are a brand. And definitely, people have become brands. Today, all of us, whether we like it or not, are brands. Every single one of you is a brand. And it's up to you to decide how strong, how good, how relevant, how useful your brand will be. So, next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about building a personal brand. And before I start talking about what you should do, I want you to listen to probably one of the world's top coaches, the top tennis coaches in the world. So let me play this short video, just a couple of minutes.
Nick Bollettieri. Nick Bollettieri is a living legend in sport. It's a name as well known as any name in sport. He's founder of the world-famous Bollettieri Tennis Academy. Nick is responsible for training more tennis champions than any other human being in the history of the sport. You all know their names: Andre Agassi, Monica Seles, Williams sisters, Anna Kournikova, Boris Becker, to name just a few, and of course, Jim Courier. So talk about our students. One comes in mind because he said an interesting remark. He said the academy and Nick provided courts, coaches, and the battlegrounds where our students, the best of the best, went in the bat and they fought. They cheated, fought, punched, and connived. Out of that came the best players of the world. You can have the best facilities of the world, but you have to have passion. Passion to excel far beyond the beliefs of people. That in mind, I speak around the world. I'll give you a brief synopsis of what I talk about. I talk about people being an athlete of life, not an athlete on the athletic field. In order to be an athlete of life, there are 4 factors to find an athlete of life, which he just spoke at Harvard. What are they? Number 1, to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Number 2, you must surround yourself with a support system that has the same passion and belief, and that will tell you things that you don't want to hear. And without a support team, you can't. No individual is bigger than the sport, and I can see being here this morning very quickly that the support team is in place. 3, no matter how good you are, everybody, you must consider adjustments and sometimes making major changes for the passion not to be one of the best, but to be the very best.
So you got 4 things which he talked about. Okay? One is to be the best in your class. 2 is to have a support system which will tell you what to do. 3 is to have the ability to change your game as you start playing. And the 4th is to have the passion in what you do. Now, he said it with reference to becoming great champion tennis player. But I think those lessons are valid even when you go about building your personal brand. Personal brand is about not just self-improvement. It's about self-packaging. How are you going to package yourself? How are you going to market yourself? That's what personal branding is all about. And so let's check when this whole trend started. It started actually in somewhere around 1997 when Tom Peters wrote this seminal article in a magazine called Fast Company, and he said, there is a brand called you. Personal brand is an idea that people think of when they think of you. So when they meet you, when they talk about you, what are they talking about? That is your brand. That is your brand. So if you were to today for a minute say, look, who are the personal brand which come to your mind? When you say personal brand, what are the names that come to your mind? So I said, look, let's eliminate film stars. Let's eliminate politicians. Let's eliminate religious leaders. And I said, these are kind of 6 brands which personal brands come to my mind. And some of you will definitely recognize one face here. The logo behind him is a giveaway. He's, of course, the founder of Edelweiss. And, of course, there is Harsha Bogle, which many of you would have heard or seen on TV. He's not a cricketer. He's actually an MBA who decided to pick the mic and start talking. And he's outstanding in what he does. And of course, in between Rasesh and Harsha Bogle is probably one of India's biggest scientists, Dr. Mashelkar, Padma Bhushan awardee, the champion for innovation in India. And that's become his battle cry that, we have to become an innovative nation. And of course, just below Mashelkar is a fellow IIM Calcutta alumnus, Amish Tripathi. Again, he was working in a financial services company, but he said, no, I want to do something different, started writing a book, and then made it into a series of books, which became the Shiva trilogy, and then now he's writing the Ramchandra series. And of course, the big bull sitting next to him, and of course, Renuka Ramnath, who's built her brand. What is so unique about these 6 people, if you were to ask me? These 6 people did not have a family name. They are not part of a legendary Tata Birla kind of a name. They didn't have a family connection. They are pure professional. They built their name by pure professional excellence. And of course, great conscious effort for building their personal brand. So they made efforts to build their personal brand. And that's how today, all of you recognize them. So a strong personal brand can give you immense benefits. Okay, one, it improves your self-awareness. It clarifies your own goals. It creates visibility and presence, and it differentiates you from everyone else. It puts you in control, and finally, it increases your wealth, and it increases your staying power. Okay. And if you were to look at 6 broad dimensions of building a personal brand, one is knowledge. You can't build a personal brand if you don't have knowledge on the area in which you're a specialist. 2 is character. You can't build a personal brand if you don't have character. 3, you can't build a personal brand if you don't have life's experiences to share with people. 3, 4, you got to have reputation. 5, you got to have self-awareness. And 6, you have to be unique. You have to be unique in some form in what you do. And in a very simplistic way, and this is a very, very simple thing, independent financial advisors can have 2 types of competency. One is what I call the content competence, which is how much you know about financial instruments. How do you keep up to date about this knowledge? How much analysis do you do? How easily can you explain the concepts to your clients? The second is a social competence. How do you know? Do you know your clients well? Do you know their family? Are you invited to their family events? Do you send them New Year cards? Do you get invited for their birthdays? Do you send them birthday cards? Uh, None of us can be perfect in these two. Some of us are more better in content. Some of us are a little better in social, but you need to have a bit of both. Without that, both working together, you can't build your successful personal brand. And let me tell a little story about my father used to run a business in Chennai for a long, long, long time. Um, and we had a IFA called Mohan, who used to advise my father. Mohan was a very humble man, but he was very knowledgeable. He was very customer focused. He was virtually a family member. I still remember, he used to send out those little postcards to remind my father about, insurance premium or this or that. He used to come and meet my father regularly. I remember when father went through his heart operation, he got a pacemaker put in his heart. Mohan came and met him within a month of his coming home to tell him, look, you have Mediclaim, you can claim the money, and we have virtually got 80% of whatever we spent on the operation. This we didn't have to ask him. We didn't have to follow up. He did it on his own. The interesting thing is that I remember in a period of probably 10 years, Mohan used to come to our house in a cycle, and in a period of 10 years, he upgraded from a cycle to a moped, to a scooter, and finally to a Maruti 800. All this happened in my eyes. I used to be in a hostel. I used to come and go, and I used to meet him often. And later, when I moved to Bombay, when I had to enhance my own insurance premium, I called him and I went and met him, and I did it through him. Did he know all this personal branding thing? No, he did not. But he intrinsically understood that he had to provide customer service and he had to be customer focused. He used to come and give advice on what instruments to put it in. And those days it was simple. It was Unit 64 and various schemes of UTI. And he managed to build a very, very strong brand. Okay. Unfortunately, my father is no more, and Mohan followed my father 10 years later. Okay. So, first thing you need to do is, how do you define your brand? Okay. What are you knowledgeable and passionate about? What is the tone of voice you would like to use? How do you want to communicate yourself to the target audience? Who are you? What is your position in the industry? So I'm going to put down 3 simple tasks for you. First is, how do you define your brand? Okay, that is the first task. So to define your brand, you need to ask a set of simple questions to yourself. What differentiates me from everyone else who might have a similar background and experience? What skills, knowledge, abilities, attitudes that you have that will make people want to work with you? What values can you create for others as a friend, as a colleague, as a blogger, as an advisor? And what will make me satisfied that I'm indeed making a good contribution? Okay, this is the first question which you want to ask yourself. And to do that, there are simple steps. First is, what result do you want to achieve next year? And for example, you say, let's say in 3 years' time, I want to have a set under management of, let's say, 100 crores. That's your objective, right? Put a 2 against that. You want to go to 200 crores. How do you get to 200 crores? So how do you want to be known as in the people whom you deal with? So do you want to be seen as adaptable, agile, agreeable, focused, helpful, competent? Okay. And try and put down those 3-4 words and make that identity real and live by it every day. So, for example, if you look at a brand like Nike or Disney or McDonald's, right? They are big brands, and I know none of us can become a brand like that. But if I say Nike, it stands for authentic athletic performance. Disney stands for fun, family entertainment. So suppose you were to write in 3 or 4 words, what is your brand? Can you write that down? 3-4 words. What is your brand? Is it helpful, competent, innovative, or is it confident, strong, supportive. So put down those 3-4 words which will describe your brand. Okay? Got that? And remember, whatever you put down as your personal brand has to be authentic, has to be consistent, has to be expertise, has to have a story, has to have visibility. So I worked, like Radhika said, I worked in advertising for many, many years. And I'm more a competency focused guy, and I was not very good at, remembering my clients' birthdays or sending them bouquets. In fact, it was very embarrassing. Some of my clients used to send me bouquets. But the fact was, when it comes to understanding their business and giving them value, I was always one step ahead. As a result, many of the clients used to call and take advice from me on areas where I should not be advising them, but they say, look, we want to call you, take your inputs, right? I was not very good at, sending New Year cards or sending bouquets, but I compensated it, overcompensated it with my expertise. But you may say, no, I need to do a bit of both, then it's up to you. So decide what you want to be, competency or social or a combination of those two. So this is the first task. What is your brand? How is your brand known? And what is the core of your brand? Okay, so you're getting that? So let's go to the next task. How do you build a strong personal brand? And networking is the way you build a brand, right? And for example, my father's agent, IFA Mohan, used to get so much referrals from my father. My father was so happy with him that he got his cousin from Kerala to give all his business to him. He got his brother-in-law from Mysore to give all his business to him. And of course, I was in Bombay. So how are you building your network? So there is this old famous book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Talks about how you need to develop an ability to create a network. Right? The first thing is, what is your brand? Right? What is the name by which you're going to be called? Is it consistent? Is it there on your business card? Is it there on your letterhead? Is it there on your shop, on your office? Right? Second, very simple stuff. What is your style? What is your clothing? And be consistent. If one day you meet your client wearing kurta and trouser, and the next day you meet your client wearing a suit, the client is going to get very confused. So for many, many years, I was in advertising, and I used to handle the Tata business. So right from the fourth floor on Bombay House to the ground floor of Bombay House, I used to go there almost 2-3 times every week. As a result, I decided that I will always be dressed in a tie and a suit, because that time Tatas were very, very suit culture oriented. So I got a whole set of suits, whole set of ties, and every day I used to go to my office wearing a tie and wearing a suit. Some of my clients did not wear a suit, so in those cases I used to go just without my suit, without a jacket. Otherwise, style, consistency. Then you got to go to meetings, you got to go to events. But before you go, figure out whom you're going to meet, whom you're going to be talking to. Make a plan. Make a plan. Don't just walk into a meeting and talk to an old friend. And in a meeting, offer to do something free for people. Okay? And be ready. If someone says, what are you doing? Be ready to introduce yourself in what I call an elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is something you say in less than 30 seconds. What can you say in 30 seconds about yourself? Standard networking 101, right? Build your network. Good personal brand builders are very good at building networks. I talked about Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar. He's very active on Twitter. Sometimes I tag him on my tweet. I've met him a few times at forums, and very often he retweets, he puts a thank you message, etc., etc. The more people you meet, the better your chance of finding. There is this famous old story about a princess kissing the frog. So the idea is you kiss as many frogs as possible, because one of them will turn out to be a prince. So where all are you going? What networking events are you going to? What trade shows are you going to? Be aware of that. Okay? And use your network. There's no point building a network if you're not going to use it. Use your network. Introduce people to your network. Take instructions from your network people. And there is this fantastic behavioral economics theory that how do you get someone to do a big favor for you? The standard answer is you do something for him, we'll do something for you. Yeah, fine. That's the standard answer. But another great way to get someone to do a big favor to you is ask him to do a very small favor to you first. You ask him for a small favor, he says yes, he does it. After that, you can ask him for a bigger favor. Okay, this is proven fact. I don't want to get into the whole research which is done, but this is a proven fact. And be ready then to deliver, right? Your client has a trouble, be ready to deliver. Be ready to help. Be ready to provide support. As I know, Tata has an account and Tata Indica had an issue. Someone had come with a complaint, and the TV crew from ABP had come and done a shoot of that. And and they reached out to me, and I was not handling the business. So I told them that. They said, no, you know people, can you do something? And fortunately, the ABP CEO I had met in some industry forum, and we liked each other. So I messaged him. He said, sorry, this is editorial. I can't do anything. But what you're saying looks like a small problem. I will try. I'm taking a flight. I'm going to be taking off now. But I will land in Bombay at 11 p.m. Can I call you at 11 p.m. and tell you what? I said, yeah, thank you very much, sir. So 11 p.m. he called me to say, yeah, I think we have handled it. How did I know him? Not because, I was doing business with him, because I met him in a forum. I met him in a particular committee where both of us were sitting together. And that is the idea behind building a different kind of network. It calls, invariably you will know people of your community. You'll know people who are in the financial community. But think again, the way to expand your network is by picking up an activity which is different from what you do, right? So this research says that there is this whole concept called shared activity principle. So try and pick an activity. It could be playing tennis. It could be playing bridge. It could be volunteering in an NGO in a place where you're set up. It may be taking an active part in Rotary Club. Okay, so this is a story about, all of you know, Bill Gates got his big break because IBM, when they launched their PC, used Bill Gates software on that PC. How did Bill Gates meet IBM? The story goes that his mother was on the committee of NGO called United Way. And in the committee, she met someone called John Eckers. And John asked her, what's your son doing? How old is he? So she said, my son, he's dropped out. He's dropped out of college and he's sitting at home, and in the garage, he's doing something called software. So this person, and he later became the CEO of IBM, said, look, why don't you send him to me? I want to meet him. So Bill Gates went and met John Eckers, and that's when he discovered they were doing a PC and they wanted someone to write software. And of course, the picture on top is how he looked when he went and probably met John Eckers. As you know, looks like a teenager. Probably he was a teenager at that time. Okay, so networking is about going to the right meetings, meeting people the right way, introducing yourself. But more important, if you can build a parallel network, it could be an NGO, it could be your local temple committee, it could be a Rotary Club, it could be your child's parent teachers association, anything. Become an active member, take interest. Don't expect any returns in the short run, but you never know, you may meet someone who will give you a great business opportunity. So we saw, one was define your brand carefully, two was build a network and keep the network vibrant and active. And let's go to the third one, which is build a strong digital and email and social media profile. Okay? Now, digital media communication starts with a good database. So you got to convert all the visiting cards you have into a database. Without a database, your business cannot exist. Okay, so I'm sure most of you have a strong database, but you got to make sure the database is clean. The database is segmented, that you have A-class clients, B-class clients, C-class clients, and so-called non-clients, or probably prospects, a large number of them. You got to make sure the database is responsive. When you send an email, ask a question, get them to respond, create a response mechanism in your database. So We are underutilizing email marketing. In the country, we just send out 500 emails and hoping something will stick. It will not stick. You got to be tight. You got to make sure who's your A, B, C, and target your messages that way. And then how do you build your digital media presence? Decide on what personal brand you want to build. You can build a brand pure competence. You can build a brand on other interests of yours. It could be some interesting stuff you read somewhere, you saw something, sharing it with your network. Okay? Showcase your personality. What is your personality? Showcase your personality in your digital media campaign. 3, personalize your post. When you're writing an email, don't say, "Dear sir," put down the person's name. It takes little effort, but it'll make sure that your email gets read and remembered. And also start with one type. Don't try and do too many things. If you're doing email, do good quality email. If you're doing WhatsApp, do good quality WhatsApp. You're saying, "No, I want to do LinkedIn," do good quality LinkedIn. Don't try and do 16 different things. You're going to fall flat. 5, be consistent. You may create a particular habit that once every 7 days, once every 14 days, I will send an email to my clients, and stick to that. Make sure that you do it like clockwork. And focus on value. Don't look at yourself. How can what you send be useful to the people you're sending the message to? Focus on value to them. And finally, establish credibility with your target audience. Don't spam. Make sure you're credible. And so personal branding, like I said, is an ongoing process. It's not as if you can wake up in the morning and say, "I'll become a personal brand." No, you're not going to become a personal brand overnight. So 5 simple things I want to leave you with. One is, define your personal brand. How is it different from all those around you? And can you articulate it in 20, 30 seconds? Can you put it down in 4 or 5 words? Second, put down demonstrable metrics for living your personal brand. What should be done? What should not be done? Okay. Treat important milestones your personal brand journey. Figure out what worked, what did not work, what failed, what backfired. Okay. 4, measure your personal brand's progress. How is your brand progressing? And in management, there is this mantra that if you can't manage it, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So put down what is going to be my targeted organic growth. Organic growth, I mean business which is growing from your own clients. Okay. What is my target for inorganic growth? How much of business should come from new clients? Okay. Have a simple balance. For example, say, look, every year, I will grow by 20%, but 10% growth will come from my current clients. 10% growth should come from new clients. Put down a target in the beginning of the year and keep measuring yourself maybe on a monthly basis. How are you doing on your target? Okay. And finally, set up a review process. You need to review and refresh your brand. So maybe each of you probably have 4 or 5 or 6 very good clients of yours. They're probably very good friends of yours. Take feedback from them. Ask them what they like about what you do. Ask them what they don't like about what you do. And see how you want to therefore craft your personal brand. Okay. And interestingly, today we are living in, VUCA was a term developed by the American War College. It stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguity. The world was supposed to be VUCA. But when they coined this term more than 7-8 years ago, they didn't realize that this is the VUCA world. We are living in a VUCA world today, where financial investors are looking for people and brands they can trust. It's easy for you to say that, look, I'm not a powerful brand. It's really mutual brand. No, please remember, you are a powerful brand. And building a strong personal brand today, you can help your clients navigate these turbulent times. They need help, they need support, they need care, and you can give that to them. So remember, it's easy to say, I'm just a small cog in the wheel. Everyone is a small cog in the wheel, right? But you can be influenced. So because remember, a brand is a story that is always being told. Each of you is a story. And can you tell that in 30 seconds? And that's something which I leave you with. And Also, the time is now for you to read interesting books, and this is a set of 6 books which recommended by Harish Bhatt of Tata to read. And these are my other books, my 9 books. And let me now stop sharing and request Radhika. Radhika, are you there? Radhika, can you hear me? So I think we can Radhika, we can now take some questions and then move forward. I think Manisha. I'm sure, I'm told there are probably 100 questions which you want me to answer. I don't know whether we'll have the time to answer all the 100 questions, but let's see. Definitely some of them we will answer. Hello? Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool. All right. So just to summarize what I told you, every one of you is a brand. Okay. And it depends on whether you believe you're a brand or whether you believe you're a small cog in a big machine. No, you're not. Like I told you the little story about Mohan. He was a pretty strong brand, right?
Ambi, so, I'm going to start by throwing the questions at you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I was doing a little summing up. So yeah, we can start. Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Okay. My apologies about the technology day. I've kept the video on hold. So the first question that I've got is that how does an IFA build a brand in the context of the fact that he's actually selling a lot of brands? You know, when an IFA works, he's selling a lot of larger AMC brands. So how do you build your brand as an individual when you're actually working to sell larger brands?
Interesting. Now, any large, for example, let's take the case of a durable retailer, right? Let's say Chroma or Vijay Sales, right, in Mumbai, right, or Vivek in Chennai. How do they build their brand? They're also selling Whirlpool, they're selling Samsung, they're selling LG, they're selling Sony, they're selling everything. How do they build their brand? They build their brand on the basis of customer focus, customer attention, customer service, right? So there is a difference of service you get in, let us say, a Vivek or a Vijay Sales or a Chroma, right? So you have to, though you may be selling all brands under one roof, what does that roof stand for, right? How do you therefore build? So you can build your brand, like I said, you can build your brands on 2 pillars. One is competency, that I will give clear, unbiased advice, right? And remember, a big mutual fund doesn't know your individual customer, right? You know your customer, you know your client, you know how much risk appetite they have. You know how scared they are when the market goes up or goes down. You know, mutual funds don't know that. So you got to understand that, look, my personal brand will be brand neutral. I'm going to be brand neutral. One, I can provide either competency, which is a great knowledge of what is happening in the market, or I can provide social support. So I can handhold my client, I can give them, greet them during their birthday, etc., etc. So you can build on both. So this business of, I'm selling all brands is true of every kind of industry, and then you need to build it in spite of that, and that's the interesting challenge which you have to face. So yeah, Radhika, thanks. The next question. Yeah.
So the next question I have is, Ambi, there are a lot of questions on how much a young IFA should spend on building the brand and how do you build a brand in a cost efficient way? I thought this was a very interesting question.
Very good. No, that's a good question. So even in big marketing companies, we have this concept of a own, earned, and shared media. Okay, the first media is owned, which is your own media, which you own, right? Which is the email ID of all your clients, the mobile number of all your clients. These are all your own. It's available to you. You can message them. Your envelope, your visiting card, your letterhead, the board which you have outside your office. That is all own media. The posters you put up inside your office. If your clients come to your office, the poster, that's all own media. The second is what we call paid media, where you need to spend money to advertise in newspapers, magazines, etc., etc. And the third is what is called shared media, which is you send an interesting newsletter to a client, and the client likes it so much, he sends it to 5 of his friends. That is shared media. So let me illustrate this with a tremendous example from a different industry. So there is this very successful logistics company called VRL. They're based in Hubli. They had trucks, but they could not get enough drivers to come to them. So they actually recruit new drivers, train them for 3 months, and then they give them the truck to drive. So they advertised in newspapers, they advertised in magazines, they advertised in radio. But finally, what they did was extremely simple. They said, we have 5,000 trucks or 20,000 trucks going up and down the country. On every truck in the back, we will write, drivers wanted, call this number. They started doing it 2 years ago. After that, they haven't had to advertise anywhere for new drivers. So figure out what is your own media, what is your paid media, what is your shared media. And if you have a particular X amount of money in terms of your marketing spends, figure out how much you're going to spend on paid media. But earned media and owned media is free. That is free for you. And so allocate it carefully and measure it on a regular basis. But there is no fixed yardstick on how much we should spend on marketing communication. But if you're going to be using social media, and I'm sure a lot of you will be using social media, hire someone to be your social media advisor on how to monitor what you're doing on social media, whether it is working or not working. But my simple thing to you is build a database. Step 1, build a database, segment the database into A, B, C, and prospects, and figure out how you want to invest in each of them. Okay. Yeah, Radhika, next.
Yes, the next one, there are 2 combined questions, Ambi, I want to take. One is that when you name a company, is it about the family name because this is a business of trust, or is it about having a corporate name? And then how does an individual, or should you build the name of the individual financial advisor who is the face of the corporate? So you can either have a family name, or you market the individual behind the brand, or you market the brand. And the second question, which is a little related, is that should IFAs have logos and taglines to create a brand? Are these important? How do you create one of those taglines?
So this is a good question. In that little example, we saw, Motilal Oswal is also a company name, right? Whereas Rasesh Shah is a brand, but Edelweiss is the company brand. So both models can work, right? You can have like Anand Rathi. Anand Rathi was another name I thought of. So Anand Rathi is a name. It's also the company name. So it's up to you to decide whether you want to take your name and put it on your company and say, look, I am, Rakesh Mehta, and my company is called Rakesh Mehta Financial Advisors, and I'm going to build Rakesh Mehta. It's easier that way if you're small, but if you're big, then you're going to have maybe 2 or 3 partners working with you, in which case you need a brand which is over above all this. So you need to create a neutral brand and build that. Whichever you do, whichever approach you do, you got to have a clear logo identity. You got to spend, today you can get a nice logo and identity done for a throwaway price. There are freelancers on the net, you can get it done for less than 5,000 rupees. but get a clean, neat logo done, get a clean, neat website done, right? And make sure you're consistent. And I meet people, I find that their logo, their visiting card has a logo in blue color, their letterhead has a logo in green color, and on the outside office board it's a different color. These are simple things to do, which you should do. Whether you should have a baseline or not, whether I should put just do it or you can trust us, that's up to you. It's not a must, but you got to be clear. What is your brand, and how are you going to build it? And there are both models: the Rasesh Shah Edelweiss model, and of course the Motilal Oswal or the Anand Rathi model. Both can exist. It depends on how big you are. If you're very big, you have a large number, a big portfolio, large number of clients working with you, several partners, who are part of your company, then you need to build a company brand like Edelweiss, right? Otherwise, your own name, you're running it yourself. Your own name is fine. Okay.
Great. So next one, Ambi, I'm going to take, and there are a lot of requests for the books you mentioned and any workshops. So we'll just circulate after this webinar the names of the books and everything. There's an interesting question that says that, I cater to HNI corporates and I don't expect them to go read my tweets and social media posts. How do I build a brand if I'm in an HNI or corporate business? Because that's a very different kind of audience.
Oh, but that's what we talked about. I'm expecting all the IFAs who are attending this webinar to be dealing with HNIs, to be dealing probably even with mid-sized or small-sized or large-sized corporates. So the question is, whether you're dealing with HNIs or dealing with corporates, you got to stand for something. What are you going to stand for? That's your position. That is your brand promise. Just because, and remember, the HNI is going to get direct contact messages from various mutual funds, and you're also going to send. So figure out what you want to do. So maybe, today's day and age is so much confusion. HNIs are going to say, look, yeah, I'm getting very confused. Can you curate everything and send it to me? Right? So you may say, look, this HNI is more risk averse, so I'm going to send him less risky investments, whereas this HNI is more risk savvy, so I'll send him more risky stuff. So remember, you have to invest in understanding your customer base, right? And segmenting that customer base, saying, look, this kind of customers I'll be able to deal with in a particular way. So what is the difference you're going to offer to that customer? So just because you're dealing with HNIs and corporates, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't build your brand.
So the next one, Ambi, and I'm going to pose you two contrasting questions because they're coming from two sets of people. One is a set of people who are saying, I have a 2-decade-old business. If I want to change my brand or reinvigorate it or reignite it, how do I do that? And the second is, I'm young, I'm new, I'm just starting out, but I'm very small. So what is the advice for me? So what is the advice for the old guy? What is the advice for the new guy? And for anyone, when do you know that you have to change your brand, things are going wrong, and how do you do that? So a set of 2-3 questions here.
Okay, this is so let's talk about the first example, right? If you're established, you've been running an organization for 20 years, people know you by a particular name. So if you make a dramatic shift, it's going to cause confusion amongst your customers. So you need to figure out what is the business going well. Then I need to do the same thing, and I need to continue doing the same thing. But you say, no, I need to give the business a new fillip. Then you need to say, look, these are the old things which I did, which I want to continue to do. But these are something new I want to do. I need to change. So, think back. Why do companies change logos, right? Logo change for the sake of logo change is not worth it. It's a lot of expense and money down the tube. Only the people who print visiting cards and letterheads make money, right? But if you want to send a signal that, look, my company is changing, it's becoming a different kind of company, and therefore I'm changing the logo, then it makes sense. Wipro worked with Wipro for many years. When Wipro went from the earlier thing to that rainbow flower, the idea was we need to communicate a new company here. We have changed. We become an IT company. We're doing so many things. We were a Vanaspati maker. We've changed. So they put out that message through that, applying thought logo. So if you're a 20-year-old company, time for you to say, look, sit and figure out where are you going. What is good about your company? What is the not so good about your company? So I always say when you start doing branding work, first talk to your customers. Find out what they like about you, what they don't like about you. And I'm sure you have some customers who will be open and fair in terms of telling you what the issues are. And then say that, look, I want to carry on that old thing which is working for me, and I need to add some new things, which could be, they may say, no, your whole thing looks very old, and you need to become more tech savvy, etc. Okay, then you need to add that. So keep something, drop something, add something. I mean, that's the thing to someone who's been in the business for 20 years, right? For the person starting new, you can change the paradigm. So the time is to say, look, what am I going to be? What is my brand going to be? And how am I going to? And today you can segment the market differently. You can say that, I'm going to focus on this type of client only, and I'm going to focus on this kind of product only, and I'm going to focus on these kind of markets only, right? So you can segment your own business differently and build it through a different paradigm. You don't need to follow the same way people have done it in the past. So today you have companies which have come up which focus only on what are called impact investing, right? There are some companies who say, no, I only focus on this particular type of investing, which I invest in, tech companies and startups. So if you're starting your company new, and remember, there is always going to be a demand for an independent financial advisor. Okay, just as when you walk into Chroma, walk into Vijay, there is always a demand for someone there to stand and talk to you when you walk in, because a customer today is confused. There is just too many options and too confusing, right? So you can be the guiding post for this customer. And if you're starting something new, sit back and say, what do I want to do? What do I want to focus on? Right? And then you can build your brand on that basis. Yeah.
So Ambi, two next questions. Again, they are at the opposite ends of the spectrum. One is the easier question, and you talked a little bit about social media, but people want to know a little bit more that if you have to get started with social media, and there are so many platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, what would you get started with? What do you recommend? How often do you post? Stuff like that. There is a second set of questions that says, listen, a lot of our business is an offline business. Is there a relevance of building a brand in the offline world also? Because you do a lot of offline work, the old reputation and referral.
Yeah, okay. So it's difficult to answer the first question because you need to understand where are your clients. Okay, are your clients? So one, I think you need to start with the basics. The basic thing is, who is your client today? Do you know them? Do you know them well enough? Do you have a database of those clients? Do you have their mobile number? Right? That's the first step. You need to do that. Then you need to understand, these are my clients. Where do they go? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Twitter? And where can I reach people like them? So my own feeling from what little experiments I've been running, Facebook is largely social, right? So if you're on Facebook, people want to see where do you go on a holiday, what dinner did you have, what lunch did you have. LinkedIn is more professional, right? It's about how to improve your career, how to speak better, how to understand about branding and stuff like that. And Instagram is all about pictures and fashion, and Twitter is everything, right? You tweet and you do that. So if you want to be active on social media, you first need to understand where are your customers going in social media. My suspicion is maybe it's probably LinkedIn. I'm not sure. It may be LinkedIn. Uh, it may, I don't know, Facebook doesn't make sense. But please remember the importance of WhatsApp, right? You can actually share a lot of stuff with your clients on WhatsApp. So if you find a good social media person to work with you, you can actually automate a lot of this stuff. You can say, look, every Monday morning, my 200 clients or 500 clients, I will send them the coming week what my expectations are, right? And this could be automated and sent out. It can be sent as an automatic email. It can be sent as an automatic WhatsApp post. You don't need to physically do that, right? So figure out where your clients are today, where are they going, and try and reach them there. So that was the first question. What was the second question? Yeah, I forgot.
Offline brand. Offline brand.
Okay. All right. So, offline, it's very easy to say that, look, offline, if you're an offline brand, what are you doing about building your offline brand? Right. Are you attending the right forums? Right. Are you going and meeting your clients regularly? So the simple thing to do is, first of all, is your brand identity aligned? Right. You cannot write your brand one way on your visiting card, one way on the letterhead, one way on the office. You got to align all that, right? Second, if you're going to give leaflets, etc., you got to make sure it's professionally done, right? And that should be clean. And then where are you going to meet your clients? Are you meeting them in their offices? Are you going to meet them in some industry forums? Where are you meeting them? When you meet them, what are you going to do? How are you going to give your card, etc., etc., etc. So be consistent is what I'm saying. And today you can produce good quality brochures at a throwaway price, because every city has good quality DTP operators who can produce it for you. Just be consistent in what you do. Make your brand look professional. Very often we say, my Dadaji gave me this, and therefore I need to put it. Yeah, keep your Dadaji's photo, but make sure your brand name, etc., is nice and crisp and professional looking. Okay.
I'm going to take a few more questions. I'm also encouraging everyone to use the chat window. We have time for a few more questions, so please do post them. Ambi, there was one question that, we are living, when you sort of talked about this content, that we are living in the lockdown world, and obviously resources are very constrained. So how can you create good content in this time? What is the kind of content people will like in this time, especially because markets are negative, people are negative, you also use content you've seen anywhere else and curate it. What matters? So advice for this time in terms of good content.
Okay, so more than content, what I'm finding is that this is a time when your clients need the personal touch. A lot of them are sitting at home, getting worried. So one of the simple things which I do every day is I make a list of 10 people to call, and I call and talk to them. These are old friends, old colleagues, So the best thing you can do in this environment is actually give a more human touch. Talk to them, find out how they are, how's their family. Makes a lot of difference. That's one. Second is, if you find something useful, it could be a webinar on personal branding, it could be a webinar on investment, it could be a webinar on mindfulness, or it could be an article. And today someone shared this with me. It was a Harvard Business Review article on men versus women. How do they talk, etc. And I plan to share it with some of my executive coaches whom I work with. Right, pull out stuff which is of relevance to them, which is of use to them, and share it with them. Right, but in this time, it is really personal touch which is important. I know it's difficult. Time is very limited. But, if you can say every day I'm going to touch base with 10 of my clients. And, the good thing today is you can reach them from morning 9 a.m. to evening 9 p.m. They're all available. They're easy to talk to. And use that time to give the human touch. maybe they are being bombarded with emails, they're being bombarded with webinar invitations. Maybe you need to tell them, look, these 3 webinars may be worth attending, sir, but those 2 webinars are doesn't make any sense. So pick and choose, help them pick and choose what they should do with their time, and just give them the human touch. And I think that's what people are probably looking for, and people are missing today.
So, Ambi, the next question, and I also want to formally announce that, I know it is 5 o'clock and we said 4 to 5. So, while we can conclude the official webinar, since there are so many questions, Ambi is volunteered to answer them. So, we will be taking questions till 5:15. So, I welcome everyone to stay till 5:15, but wanted to just mention that. There was a question about how you build a brand among the mass, and a lot of mutual fund consumers are also much younger, and the so-called millennial consumers. A lot of advisors are older advisors in some sense. So do you have to do anything to reach out to a more millennial audience?
Okay, so in direct marketing, it's we call this member get member, right? So the idea is you have to go and ask for a small favor from your clients, and you can get 1 lead, 2 leads from them, and then you can start snowballing this and expand your network. So it's it's a competitive world. You're not going to get a new business sitting in your hunches. So you got to go out and ask people for favors, ask people for help, and get referrals. And what will happen is that once a lot of time your client may not be even knowing that you're looking for business. So you ask them for business, they know that you're hungry, you're committed, and they will refer business to you. And so many, I've been referred so many advisors saying, look, why don't you talk to so-and-so, he's done a great job for me, etc., etc. So you get, why is my friend doing that to me? Because his advisor has asked him, say, sir, give me one reference, so many people, give me one reference. So, the good old days in most companies, the accountant used to be a insurance agent because the accountant knew who the new people joining the company because he gives out the salary check. And so LIC had figured out a nice formula that catch the accountant and make him an LIC agent. And in every company I've worked in, the insurance agent, the most popular insurance agent with the youngsters in the company is the accountant, because they take their salary check from him and they get their petty cash allowances from him. So he's a so-called much loved and also much hated guy, but more loved than hated. And therefore, he was a perfect guy to catch them young. So what are you doing to catch them young? So interesting. Yeah.
The next 2 questions are a little unrelated, but I'll still ask you, one of the things is this is obviously a business of trust. And, the old school impression, and you've talked about it, was advisors being kind of the agent, distributor. And these are not words we like. How do you convey through your brand this feeling of trust, being an advisor rather than a distributor? That's question 1. And the second is someone asked, which I thought was very relevant, is what role can testimonials play in building a brand, and how should you use those?
Let me answer the second one. I think testimonial is critical in your business. I gave you the example of, my father's, financial advisor, Mohan. So, my father referred him to 3 of his cousins, and all of them gave him business. So your business goes through testimonials. You got to actively seek, without being irritating, actively seek testimonials from your clients. And if they know you're seeking testimonial, they also know that, look, this guy is serious about business and he look after my money well. So you got to, it's critical. It's critical to seek and take testimonials. The first question was, sorry, what is the first question?
Conveying safety, Ambi.
Pardon?
Conveying safety as a your brand, because it's a trust business.
Yeah, it is a trust business. So you got to, for example, how do you convey trust? The way to convey trust is to talk of your own heritage. If you've been in the business for 10 years, 15 years, saying that would help. If you got multiple offices, saying that will help. So you got to build your own brand of trust. In this business, trust doesn't get built in one day, right? It will probably take 5 years, 10 years, but reinforcing this, saying that you've been in business for more than 10 years and you have more than 500 clients, all this helps to build trust. How do big companies build trust? You build trust by talking of your heritage. So what is your heritage? Trust also gets built by talking of your competence, saying that, I've done, I'm a chartered accountant, I've done company secretaryship, I can understand balance sheet, I can analyze balance sheet, I can do this, I can do that. You build trust. So you can build your trust on both those pillars, the competency pillar or the social pillar. Both can be built. So, I know someone who has 2 banking relationships. In one bank, the investment advisor is extremely competent. So this person talks to this guy once a month to get his advice on what is happening in the market. The other person is not so technically competent, but he's a great social guy. So the other guy actually calls this person once a week to talk. How are you, ma'am? How are you doing? Right? And she likes him. And therefore, she uses both of them for their competency. One guy is used for his competency, the other guy is used for his social skill. So you can build your trust on both these, which is, I'm well qualified, I can understand. Your average HMI doesn't understand anything, doesn't understand balance sheet, doesn't understand cash position, doesn't understand cash flow, doesn't understand fund flow. So the simple thing for you to do is to understand that and interpret it for them. Why is Unilever gone up now? Why is Reliance gone up suddenly? Why is that gone up? One is the market, the other is the future, right? All of you should read. I'm sure all of you read Warren Buffett. All of you must have read books on investing by Benjamin Graham. Read all the stuff, understand the stuff, become competent. So you can build trust by showing your competence, right? Because customer is looking for someone who can cut through all this maze. And please remember, no one can predict the market, right? And you've got to keep telling your customer that, why is Unilever all-time high now? No one can explain that, right? Because the 3-month sales is going to be hit, but it's at an all-time high. So you got to interpret all these things for your clients. So you can build trust on the basis of your competence and your knowledge. You can build trust on the basis of your longevity, your credentials, your long list of great customers you worked with, or you can build your trust through very good social contact. And ideally, you need a blend of all these. Yeah. Radhika, any more questions left?
In fact, you make a beautiful. Yeah, no, just a few, Ambi. In fact, the number of people attending this webinar, this is the first webinar where the number of people attending it is growing through the Q&A. So that's a testament to the work that you are doing. In fact, one of the things that people are
you were saying something when I interrupted you.
No, I was saying. No, that's okay. I was saying that the number of people attending this webinar is growing through the Q&A, which is very rare for webinars. There were 2 questions that were asked. What are 2 things that advisors should not do while trying to build their brand? Any mistakes that you've seen people made? And any success stories? You talked of your own father's example of how a brand actually translated into business, because there are a lot of people who are skeptical about this whole branding thing for an individual.
See, we are using the term brand, but in the good old days, it was called reputation, right? It's really, brand is nothing but reputation. What is your reputation, right? Today we're using a term brand because, we want to write it in a particular way and all that stuff. But otherwise, it's reputation. Reputation management is old. It's an old, proven thing. It is your reputation. Today, what we are saying is that it's not reputation, it is brand. And you need to understand how your brand is crafted, how it is modeled, how it is presented. And it is if you're not aware of it, you're not going to be able to build it and craft it and carefully. So one of the things you've got to remember is you got to be true to yourself, got to be consistent. Like, I have a friend of mine who's fantastic social skills. he will remember my wedding anniversary. I might have forgotten, right? He'll remember. So I can't become, the mistake you can make is that one day I want to be a very happy, jovial guy. Next day I want to be a serious guy. No, that's not going to work. You got to figure out what you want to be and then stay true. Stay true to yourself. Otherwise, you're going to make a mistake. Like I said, right? You can't be one day dressed in a suit and next day go be the same client dressed in a kurta pajama. Not going to work, right? You're going to get confused. You got to be inconsistent. You got to be consistent. You got to be true to yourself, and that's important. Don't make the mistake that I've attended this webinar. Now I'll wear a suit and walk on the road. No, if that doesn't fit you, don't do it. So do something consistent. Stick to your consistent thing. Don't keep doing things for the sake of doing things. And just because I said something every week I start sending. No, if it first of all you got to understand. Very important thing in being an IFA is you got to care for your clients, right? When I was I also used to be in an advertising agency business, right? The important thing was, I remember once a very senior person, I will not name him here, and the company was going through a bit of a troubled time. So he was the managing director of this huge company. So he called me and I went to his office and I was sitting with him, and then he asked me, Ambi, are you sleeping well these days? I didn't know where the question was going. So I said, no, sir, I'm disturbed because, our sales is not doing well. He said, good. I just want to ask you that. I know, if you're concerned about our business, you'll come to us with a good solution. So have a cup of tea. Let's talk about other things. So he knew that I was worried about his business as much as he was worried about his own business. So my question to you is that if you've got 100 clients, and let's say out of that 20 clients are key clients for you, who account for probably 75% of your business, are you having sleepless nights for their business? And then what are you doing about it? So that's important, right? That's how you build your personal reputation. That's how you build your personal brand. Yeah. Radhika, are people still there or they all run away?
Two questions, Ambi. One is a very Oh God, there are 600 plus people there and they're only increasing. So there are more requests for questions. There is one on how to train your employees to adequately represent your brand. I'll repeat that. How do you train your employees to adequately represent your brand? To give you a second question is that when a bunch of small IFAs get together, can they build a bigger brand together or do they lose their individuality? Because a lot of people in this industry are also evaluating mergers, but you don't know, will I lose my identity?
Both are fabulous questions. So let me answer the first one. You may have, let's say 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 employees working with you. Be clear with them what does your brand stand for. So the best way to get them to understand your brand is share stories. Share stories with them on what your brand or what you've done for your clients. For example, I told that story about how Mohan came home within 2 weeks of my father coming home from the hospital after having done the pacemaker, and he had brought all the forms. He wanted to check on my father's health, which was nice of him. But we didn't ask him. So he said, look, we have a Mediclaim. We've been paying Mediclaim for the last 10 years, sir. I think we should claim. So my father said, look, this is a big amount. I don't know. He said, no, sir, I'm there to help you. Right? You please fill, literally, he said, you please sign in these 3 places. That's enough. Rest I will fill. Okay, I'll take care of it. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, he came home with a check. Right? These are stories. Like this, each of you, I'm sure, have great stories on how a client gave you extra business, how you did extra service for your clients and therefore got some extra business from them. So share these stories with your executives. In advertising, every Monday we have so-called Monday morning. We call this the prayer meeting. So every Monday we meet and the team meets and we talk. We talk about what's happening, and very often the leader of the team has to tell something, tell something about from the past, of some story about what you did and what is so unique about your brand, right? So have a set of stories which you can tell your customers, tell your employees, and don't worry, repeat the same story every 3 months. Doesn't matter. They will later say, boss तो वो story बताएगा रात 12 बजे client का घर गया है. Doesn't matter. Repeat it. Okay, let it go into their head and they'll start living the brand. The second question is interesting. I see there is a great opportunity for 3-4 IFAs to kind of get into a kind of understanding, right? Two things you need to do. One is what all will you share and what will you not share. For example, simple thing could be, you will not poach my client, I will not poach your client. Okay, so that's clear. My clients are my clients, your clients are your clients. If it's a neutral client, both of us can go and meet that client. And then you say, look, we are going to share some resources amongst us. So you may say, one person may say, look, I've got this guy who does a great job analyzing, debt instruments. So I'm going to write, every month he's going to put together a report. I can share it with you guys. So you can share it with your clients. Someone say, look, I've got a guy who's worked in the pharma industry for 5 years. Usko sab kuch malum hai. So he's going to put together a pharma report every month. I'll share it. Share it. 4 or 5 of you can share it and build your reputation. You can even call it, your own, whatever, Radhika IFA network. And you're a member of our Radhika IFA network. And then you share that report with all your clients. Share resources. You can get together. You can. I know in the event business, 3 very large event companies were joining hands. One was doing big events like launch events and all that. Another one was doing school events, and the third person was doing a different type of show business events. And they were doing the same thing. They were saying, look, we will not poach each other's clients, but we'll share resources. We will share, maybe even share some talent. That I've got this big inquiry from a client who's got big money. He's got 5 crores. He wants to invest. And he wants roughly 10 to 15% return over a 20-year period or 10-year period. I need some help here. Do you have someone who can do an analysis and crunch some numbers for me? Yeah, share resources. You do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
So, Ambi, last question I'm going to take, and then thank you. What's your 30-second elevator pitch for an IFA?
I am Ambi Parameswaran. I am an independent financial advisor. I have been in the business for 10 years, and I provide consistent, reliable, trustworthy advice to my clients. You can go and ask these 10 people what they think about me, and I've been working with them for 10 years. Okay, that's a very simple elevator pitch for an IFA. My elevator pitch as a brand consultant may be different, but this is a simple elevator pitch. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much. I would just request all the IFAs, thank you so much for the enthusiastic response to this. Thank you so much, Ambi. Thank you everyone for your patience on the tech issues. My request, we'll share all the books, resources, everything you've asked for. If you have any suggestions on material you want us to share, please leave it in the question bank. You've asked for the books and anything else that you want us to share, and maybe we can talk to Ambi. Because the one thing I learned after this is there's a lot more enthusiasm for this topic than even our markets topics. So we as an AMC are also very committed to help you on this. So just share feedback on the form of what more you want on this topic, and I promise we'll bring it to you. Ambi, again, thank you so much, and especially for your patience.
Radhika, before you go, let me thank you for inviting me to talk on this topic to your people, and I think it's a sign of your innovativeness that you thought of, of this topic to the IFAs, and I thank all the 600 or whatever number who have been patiently listening to us. And so thank you very much, and have a safe day, and God bless, and thank you very much. Thank you, Radhika.